I'm Hannah. Oh, hi everyone. I'm Hannah. This is my cat. We're going to be doing a little watercolor card tutorial here for you today. So here we are, we're live. We are going to be doing a couple different ones. This a Happy Holidays card. You'll see there's a little shimmer in that gold there. Here we have another one. This one's a kind of squiggly Christmas tree. And then here we have a wreath. Now these are all going to be pretty easy to do at home, just with kind of your standard watercolor set and with a standard pack of watercolors. So why don't we dive in and let this guy go. But how are you doing? Great. So we are working from home, Sama Altoona is, because we have to be closed due to the newest restrictions, but you can see some of our exhibitions online and see us that way. So we're gonna get started. Again, this is the pack you're gonna wanna use. There's a lot of different varieties of this at local stores. This is just a kind of generic watercolor pad, great for giving away watercolor cards. I am using this Aquafine pack here. It's watercolor pack, so you'll see it's got a bunch of varieties. And one of the colors I use often in this is actually a gold watercolor, and so it actually makes the kind of things shimmery, which is really fun. So we're gonna kind of dive right in. I am gonna show you down here, including my mug. We got this at Clay Creations, which is just down the street from us. Be sure to have your hot chocolate and tea ready to go. And then of course back here I have, this is my water for my water. So we can just kind of dive in. There's a few different ways to actually fold your paper. So you can either fold your paper just straight in half and do it as a vertical or horizontal, but you can also do it and just like make it a half sheet. And that way you kind of get double the cards if you're looking to send it to a lot of people at once. So we're gonna get kind of rolling. Which one should we do first? I think we'll start off with this Happy Holidays one here. We're gonna start off with the berries because we're gonna make sure those aren't gonna run. And we're just gonna get rolling on that. You'll hear in the background, you'll hear my dog and cat apparently playing together, so apologies for that sound. All right, so I am using just this basic number 4 here. It came actually with the Aquafine thing, so we're just gonna wet this. I also have a little dipper, so I can put my brush in there. Now, I'm gonna start with the red here. You can see it's a little bit exciting. So we're gonna dip it in the red, get the red all nice and wet. So, all right, so we got it all nice and wet. Now we're just gonna go to the corners here. We're gonna make sure we're on the right side of the watercolor paper. We're gonna just do little circles. I like to leave just a little bit of it white so that it has a little bit of that shine. And these don't have to be perfect circles. They can be kind of in whatever order you want to do them. They can all be touching, they could not. They could be little, they could be big. Kind of live your dream out with these ones. And what you'll see is there's going to be a lot of pigment on the paper and a lot of water. So you might want to let those dry before. So we're actually just going to do these berries real quick. And they are very quick. They're just little circles. So we're just going to do that. Here we go, we'll make this a little 3. Okay, so these are the berries. They're pretty simple, pretty easy. You can see there's maybe just a little bit too much water down here, but that's okay. We're just gonna let it live and breathe and kind of float away there. I'm gonna bring it up a little bit here again. So, those are the berries. We have just done the berries for this one, but you'll see here we have a lot more to do. We have to insert all of these different little sprigs of a evergreen tree, and we'll have to do the lettering, and also what really kind of classes it up is this gold stuff here. So the gold stuff actually shimmers in a really fun way. So we're gonna put that aside and let that dry. We're now gonna move on to this Happy Holidays kind of basic wreath. You can do wreaths a lot of different ways. This is really a beginner tutorial. You can do wreaths. Hi you guys, those are my animals. You can do wreaths with berries, with leaves, with bows, but this is actually really just a kind of basic watercolor wreath You're not going to be using too many colors or too many different types of strokes or brushes. So we are going to find this. We're going to get that red out of there. We don't want it to be kind of a red leaf. Now, how you mix your greens is really up to you, but you can actually put the greens in together, and if you're looking for a more neutral, more kind of evergreen green, you can add in a little bit of purple, and that's going to make it a little bit more of a neutral green. So I'm going to start here. You can see I've got quite a selection of green in my palette here, and I have this kind of pre-mixed green that I've already done, but I would really recommend adding in purple so it doesn't add, so it looks a little bit more neutral and a little less of a green, more of that evergreen that you're kind of used to. So I'm grabbing that purple here and bring it in. It's really a cool green in the Christmas season. What you get on a spruce tree is more of a cool green. So for those of you just hopping in here, we are actually doing 3 different holiday cards, and we're doing those through watercolor. So right now we're just mixing up our greens for our wreath, and I think I've got it here. But what I need to do is make a circle for the wreath. So the circle for the wreath is really important, and you can do that through this lovely tool. But if you don't have one of these, I would actually recommend just taking your little water cup here and a pencil. And here we go. You can hear my cat in the background. He is saying hello. All right, and so that is not at all a perfect circle, but we're only going to be doing a little bit. We can do a full one if we want, so we can make it a little bit more of a perfect circle. Hi, buddy. So here we go. We've got that perfect circle, more or less. Again, you could use one of these tools or another tool, a tracing tool, to make a perfect circle, but using your water cup is already going to be a really great way to do that. So with this process, I'm going to bring this over a little closer so you can see. So with this, we're going to want to start just going around, and you want all of the leaves to go the same direction, so all those sprigs to kind of have a movement to them so that it's going in one direction as opposed to kind of competing. And they don't have to be perfectly uniform, but having them have some sort of system is great. And again, I'm going to use this number 4 that I was using before. So I'm going to get my green going here, and we're just going to do kind of quick little things. You want to make sure here that you don't have too much water, or else all of them are going to start to bleed together. And you can do it so that there's one little section. You can kind of just go for it. Again, these are going to be going kind of in different directions, and don't worry about them all being the same color or having the same kind of water. So you see how this one's really, really dark? That's actually happening because there's so much water and pigment there, whereas this one back here is actually going to be a little bit lighter because I haven't put any more ink on it, any more pigment. So if I want to fix that or change that, I can just go get more, kind of bring it around. So again, this is just a quick kind of basic wreath. For those of you just joining in, we are doing this wreath here at home. This is just a quick little wreath that we're doing for the holidays here. So we're going around doing this wreath. How's it going for everybody? And you can kind of have them go all sorts of different directions, but you really do want them to have kind of a direction that they're going, a movement pattern, so that they're not competing against one another. So we're just keeping that going. And this, really don't worry about it because this is kind of the first layer. There'll be a lot more layers as we go forward because we want this to kind of be a varied leaf pattern, or I guess pine needle pattern. So we can go, so what you'll see here is you get some kind of inconsistencies with the pigment, and that's okay because we're going to be going back through it quite a few more times with different kinds of greens, different shades of greens, different amounts of pigment. Right now I'm going to actually add a little bit more purple so that this next one is a little darker, a little bit more neutral. And I might just throw in a touch of black to give it some more texture. So we are just going through, we're rolling. And you can add them kind of sporadically, you can add them throughout the whole thing. How you do this is really up to you, but you do want this to be, in the same direction, and you want it to be kind of fun. Oh, my cat says hello again. Yeah, buddy. So, so we're just kind of rolling. And you can see here, again, we're getting those little strokes. You can see I've added right here, and that we're starting to get more variety, because you don't want this all to be the same color. If it's all the same color, it's going to be kind of boring. But you don't want it all to be too dark or too light, or whatever you're looking at. You want it to be kind of a fun experience too for everyone, people that are getting it and you making it. So we're just kind of rolling here, adding where we can. We don't want to overwhelm one section and totally ignore another section. And when in doubt, feel free to leave it alone and walk away and come back to it. So we're starting to get that kind of full leafy experience. And I want to add quite a few more things, but I'm not totally sure. So we might be holding off finishing this one because I need it to dry, but I also might want to add in just a little bit more of a yellow green, because right now I've got a pretty good kind of purplish and blue green, but this is actually maybe needs a little something else. And one of the joys of art is you can't really press, undo here, so you get to kind of experience it for all of its whims. So here you can see we've got different kind of darkness and lightness, and it's pretty blue here in the coloring, and it's pretty nice, it's pretty fun. It's just a quick little wreath. This is great because now, and you can certainly change your wreaths. This is the basic wreath, but you can add it so that there's color, texture, a bow, but that's kind of going to be the start there for that wreath. So we're going to let that one dry a little bit more before we make any other additions. Now this one, so the nearby Christmas tree capital of the world, Indiana, PA, this is going to be kind of a squiggly Christmas tree. And this is a great one too, because you get to kind of play around quite a bit with that. So I have over there. So I'm going to fold up a new one. Okay, and we are doing, those of you just joining us, this is a holiday card with a squiggly Christmas tree. And what you might not be able to see is right there, you see that gold there? So that is a kind of gold metallic watercolor. And if you get to experience metallic watercolor, it's really fun. And it really classes up any sort of card you want to write, which is great. So I'm going to have a little sip of my hot chocolate from my cup, little Santa Claus mug. And one of the challenges of every watercolor artist, I think, is mixing your actual drinking water and your water for your brushes. So just make sure you've got the right one. Very cheery, I'll just put that right there. So we are gonna get started on this squiggly card. All right, so I'm just folding it. You wanna make sure that's a nice and tight fold. You can do those really easily with that here. For those of you just joining, we are doing a little Christmas holiday card with, as you can see, kind of shiny gold. So we're gonna actually be using a very similar green to the one we just used in our wreath card. So I'm gonna get my brush wet, and I'm just gonna keep going with that green because we've already mixed it. It's really lovely. And this one is a little bit more of a trial and error. So if you're feeling fun, this one's a good one to kind of roll with. And it's one of the ones that you've got to be kind of ready to critique heavily or not, because it's just squiggles, and you've got to kind of go boldly where you are. You can't really practice it too much, I guess. So I'm just going to go for it. We're going for a little squiggle Christmas tree. Starts small at the top and goes down big to the bottom. So here we go. So I did that. Now that doesn't look like a Christmas tree, and I think we could admit that. So what I'm gonna do is, instead of totally wasting that might be a fun thing to use for, say, a like tag, or maybe I wanna make it into a better tree or something, but we're gonna try that again. So here we go. I'm gonna start small, get bigger. Here we go. All right, that's much better. So here we go, we've got a little bit of a tree, and once we add in those Christmas bulbs, we're gonna be in a better spot. And one of the things I like to do, you see how the top here is much darker than the bottom? I really wanna make the bottom darker and really highlight that. So I'm just gonna go over that area with a brush that has maybe a bit more pigment on it. And it'll already start to go that direction because it's already a wetted area. So we're just gonna lightly trace that so that it has a nice kind of darkness to it, because we don't want it to fade away. You know, if anything, I want the bottom darker than the top. So here we go. Whee! Oh. When you get a little edge, just kind of try to make it look nice. All right, so here we go. We've got that Christmas tree. It's just a squiggle Christmas tree, but once we add the balls to it and the little gold, it's gonna be a kind of fun tree. So I'm going to wet my brush, put that here, and now we're gonna look back at our berries, which are here. They're still drying, so this berry one is going to end up looking like this, little happy holidays. And again, these are the most kind of basic cards you can do. And don't get really overwhelmed. These are not intense patterns of leaves. This is just going to be, as you can see here, these marks, they're just straight. They're just straight in one direction. And you want them to kind of look like a spruce tree with that kind of straight yet flowy experience. So that's one we're working on right now. And we've got our berries here. Now the one berry is still drying a little bit, so I'm gonna go grab another berry because I have extras over here. So I've been making some of these cards for my friends and family, and it's a really great way to kind of share in the Christmas spirit. And you can see this is almost identical to the berries we made earlier. So now again, we're gonna want kind of a more neutral green. So how do we get that? We get that by adding kind of a bluer green, but also adding in purple. Purple will kind of dilute the green from being quite so intense and making it a bit more of that holiday green that we're used to seeing on spruce trees and evergreen trees. That's really great. So I'm just mixing my colors a little bit here. And you can really use all sorts of different colors, but you are gonna want probably this dab cloth so that you don't end up with too much color. So right now there's a lot of water on my brush. I'm just gonna whoop so I don't end up with too much. And I'm gonna get started. Now you can do this a few different ways. What I would recommend is having them so that they're kind of in the way that they're framing it, but not so much that they're totally straight. But again, you get to do what you want. They're your holiday cards. So I'm gonna leave it like that, and here we go. So I start by making a line, whoop, and if it's a little thick, that's okay, but you kind of probably want it to be a little thinner. And then you're gonna wanna make the thinnest lines you possibly can. So you're gonna wanna do that with a little bit less water and just kind of spreading it straight out. I apologize that you guys can't see me all the way, but I'll show you here in a moment what this will look like. So for me, this first pass is gonna look really dumb. Look at those little straight lines, they look so uniform and silly. But we're gonna add in a lot of color on top of that and a lot of variety. So the bottom layer is really just starting to get the shape. It's nothing too intense. And then I like to turn it just because that's gonna take, I don't know, 30 seconds, a minute to dry. So here we go, just kind of, you want them to be somewhat similar in size, but remember that a spruce leaf, a spruce sprig, I guess, gets down and gets a little smaller. So here we've got those two, and you can kind of get what they are, but once we add more colors and more variation, it's really gonna start to make more sense. And then here, whoop, we're gonna do the same thing. And I've got this kind of nice blue green going on, very holiday. I'm gonna do that same thing. And this, all in all, I mean, the materials that you can use to do this won't really cost you much more than what, $10 to $15. I know this watercolor pad is only $6 at Michael's, but there's also, they have $5 watercolor sets too, so it's really up to you. It's really kind of a lovely thing, and you can spend more money or less as you desire. So now one of the questions is you can bring it all the way to the edge or leave it if you want to leave room on the sides, on these sides here. You can do that. or you can bring it to the edge. So here you'll see one that's to the edge. And I do like the edge, I think that's nice, so I'm gonna actually bring my sprays all the way, kind of finish that out. Now, when you're going around the berries, you're gonna wanna make sure that those little leaves don't hit the berries all the way. Okay. So that's it to the edge. It doesn't look great now because we still have a lot to add to it. Again, for those of you just joining us, we are doing watercolor Christmas cards, holiday cards. They're good for all sorts of things. They're mostly greenery, but they're really fun to do, and they're also pretty easy to do, which is really wonderful. So we are just finishing up these little sprigs. I guess I don't know if they're called sprigs. You call a sprig of rosemary, is a spruce sprig a sprig? If we weren't live, that might be something I'd look up. So we do want to keep the kind of sprigs going around the berries a little bit. So you can see here, we've added a little bit of green around the berries, but we're going to add more and not just have 2, we're going to do 3 or 4 or 5 as we continue. So I want to do, I'm just going to wet my brush and kind of get rid of a lot of the water on it, a lot of the pigment and get more water. I'm going to go here. And this is just the lightest amount. You're basically using like colored water instead of like heavy pigments to do this. You can see it's just very faint there. But we're gonna kind of fill in the holes, and we're not gonna put pigment on our brush. We're just gonna kind of do very light things. These are kind of the illusion of more behind, because we don't want it to seem that these are the, now I've run out, so I'm gonna just get water. I'm just getting water to see if that will do anything. Because I've been using so much green, my water actually has a bit of a hint of green, so it works out perfectly. So I want to kind of allude to the fact that there might be more. This might be a whole tree as opposed to just like 2 little sections of an evergreen leaf, evergreen section, I guess. So, and it can get increasingly light or dark. So you can see here, up on this side, this side, you can see it's just ever so faint there. And that's nice because it's going to show kind of a fullness of the leaf. So now I'm getting more, and then I'm dumping it in the water. And now I'm going to add in, I dumped too much in the water. So now I'm going to add in here for our watercolor leaf. All right. And that one's much darker than anticipated because I dipped it right in. I didn't put any water on it, but because I'm letting it kind of dry up as I go, it's actually pretty light all in all. So, and then we're just gonna kind of finish this out with, again, this kind of illusion of there being more behind. And if they're darker or lighter, that's okay, because, you know, at the end of the day, they're one whole section of a tree. These don't necessarily have to be lighter, they could be darker, in fact. So I like to just add them in because they do a pretty nice job of adding to the fullness. But when we look at this now, you'll see it actually seems pretty bare. You know, that's not a very full tree. So we're going to actually add a lot of color here, a lot more, but we're going to continue this basic pattern. We're going to let this all dry for a second, and we are going to come back to our wreath. So our wreath, which we were doing before, we've done a full wreath, and this you can see has a lot of variation in darkness, but it's all pretty much blue. Well, it's a blue-green. So I'm going to get a little bit of my kind of yellowish green to add into that, so that we have a little bit more dimension, and so it looks more like a real thing. So I'm just going to add that in. You want to make sure it's not too wet, because if it's too wet, it'll start to like kind of bleed together. It'll start to look a little funny. It'll look thicker as opposed to this kind of thin situation. So I'm just adding little bits here and there, not doing a full thing of it, just a little bit here and there, which is kind of fun. Okay. And I hope you're all having a wonderful Sunday afternoon. Thought this would be a pretty good time to just show you how to do some watercolor holiday cards for this upcoming season. So we are just adding in a little bit of this yellowish green to our wreath to give it some full dimension. And again, these are great as gifts themselves, but they're also great to just send to friends and family, you know, through the mail, deliver it to their house, however you want to do, as a thank you for, you know, customers or clients or friends of your place of work. So now if you look at this, you'll see there's a lot more. I guess the quality of a Facebook Live is not great, but you can see there's a lot more green and yellowish green here. You can see that all through. So we can add in that little bit of visual difference. And how we want to actually write in this card, we're going to discuss. I guess you can't say anything, but I can. So now we're looking at this, our squiggle tree. Now our squiggle tree, it's really up to you how you want to do it. I do like to add a little star on the top, but you could also add Christmas balls that go on the tree, or lights, all sorts of different things. But we're just going to do red and gold Christmas balls and a little star. So I'm going to drink a little bit more hot chocolate. We're in the festive season. I guess we should have been playing music, huh? I think I probably can't because of licensing, so I guess you'll have to sing. So I'm just getting my red here, and I'm going to make little Christmas balls here. I want them to be fairly well pigmented because I want them to be cool. I'm just kind of sporadically putting them, knowing that I'm also going to add in the green, the gold. So for those of you just joining us, we are doing a little holiday card tutorial. It is watercolors. I'm walking you through all the steps and what you need to have. So you will need that little reminder watercolor pad. This is a 6x9, which I find when folded in half fits in almost every card carrying thing. We just did this one where we did the berries, and we're working on our green. And right now we are doing a squiggly Christmas tree, which is really fun to do because it's also so simple. These are all really beginner water tutorial things to do. So I've added these little Christmas balls, and now I'm going to let that dry before I go into my gold and add my star and my gold Christmas balls. So we're almost there. It's been 30 minutes and I've been walking you through it. We've almost finished all 3 cards, which is a really great place to be. Now, here comes the fun stuff. With this one that we were doing, we've got our berries, we've got our little spruce tree elements, but it's really bare, and so we're going to want to add a lot more color to this. So I'm going to get that kind of yellowish green that we were using before, and I'm just going to get a lot of that on my brush. I'm going to make sure my brush isn't too overwhelmed with the water too. And now I'm just going to add in. We're just going to follow the general pattern of the spruce sprigs. I'm going to call them sprigs. No one is here. No one's correcting me. You guys can let me know if there's a better term for a sprig of spruce. And I'm just going to keep on getting that going. That's a very yellow green. Which is kind of fun because you also get to experiment with different greens, different ways to do color mixing, because you can end up with a green that's a lighter green or a more neutral green. And you are gonna, as your kind of pigment runs out, don't forget to get those ones in the back, those little hints of a sprig, so that they can have somewhat of a similar hue without being as overwhelmed as the front ones. So I'm gonna show you what that looks like. Now you can start to see, look at the difference there. It's really starting to come to shape on this side here, and then this side is still in need of that yellow-green. And we're going to keep adding to it, and really I do 2 or 3, sometimes 4 coats, but often 3 coats of greens before I'm really in a place that I'm happy with the sprig. And so we're just kind of going for, and again, this is all one brush. I am using my number 4 brush for everything right now, whether I should or not, because I think it's really important to be able to use the tools you have as opposed to the tools you wish you had. And this is just kind of my go-to brush, and it's really nice if you're just looking for kind of easy breezy one to do. So we are working on this holiday card, and we are just trying to get this color for this spruce sprig all perfect. So hello and welcome. So this is going to be a little happy holidays card. It's going to have little red berries, it's going to have these little spruce sprigs. It's going to be a really fun one, and really easy. This one has a lot of layering, but don't get too stressed out about that, because it's really just a nice little card. So here we go. You'll start to see all of those different colors in there. We need to add another layer, I think. So we're going to keep on rolling there. And I'm going to update this little section here. So for those of you just joining us, we are doing 3 holiday cards. We are almost done with all 3. We're in those little final stages as we wait for everything to dry, and then we're adding in the final elements. So I'm going to get back to my blue-green, and I want to add in a little bit of black. Just a little bit, because I want this to really be the kind of top layer, be really fun, and kind of vibrant. So I'm gonna go back to my one that's still drying. They're both still drying, but I want it to be just kind of in the back here, and just make sure it's dark enough and vibrant enough that it is giving me the movement of the sprigs, giving them the definition they need to be very exciting. So we are just working on this holiday card. I need a little bit more black. Oh, that's too much. It's a classic mistake. So, and don't fear those. You get to play around as you move along with this, because it's your holiday card. If you just want to send it to yourself, you totally can. But this is also a great way to show someone you cared about them and that you are really invested, because it's also really fun. It's something you can do while you're watching Netflix. It's something you can do while you're hanging out, when watching like a movie. I love to do it while I listen to podcasts. I think it's really great, and a really great way to kind of entertain your creative soul while not being overwhelmed by having to produce something absolutely perfect. So now we've added, you see that dark layering on this side here? That has really added to it. And again, this is one of the most basic kind of Christmas cards you can make, holiday cards. And it's really it's not meant to trouble you. It's not meant to be perfect. It's meant to really engage you in this artistic style and in creating cards that people want to have. And we are now adding in that dark on the other side too. And it just adds a really nice layer for people. We don't want it to be too much. There's so much going on underneath, but we do want it to be kind of, beautiful and indicative of the sprig itself. So we are working on those holiday cards here for our friends and family. Ooh. All right, and I'm just gonna don't forget to bring it right up to those berries so they don't look too out there in the open. All right, so there we go. We've added a lot to it. It's really fun, and you get to kind of play with that method. It's an enjoyable one, and it's easy to do when you're paying attention or not. So we got a little happy holiday card here. It's missing the text, but we'll get to that. I'm going to go back to our squiggly Christmas tree. Our squiggly Christmas tree, we added the red Christmas balls, and now we're going to add in the gold. So for this, I'm using this gold. You can buy gold watercolor tubes. This I got off of Etsy. It's just a nice kind of, you can see that it shines gold. So we're going to be using that. And I generally don't use my number 4 brush always for this because when I do lines, I do like to use a certain type of brush to make my lines straighter. But I'm going to do with the number 4 brush just so we can all practice that together. Here I am wetting this gold so that you can really get the gold. It's really kind of a glittery system, so it's like little flecks of gold within it, which is really fun and also kind of a challenge to paint with. So I am got my little holiday card here. We're going to add in this gold watercolor as Christmas balls. So I apologize that you can't see it, but I'll show you in a moment. Hi, we're just doing Christmas ornaments on this Christmas tree, this holiday Christmas tree. Okay. Some of those are more circular than others, but that's okay. It's a Christmas card. So here, what we've got, well, Christmas ornaments. This bottom one was what I might classify as a mistake. But we're just gonna kind of roll with it, which is what you do with art. So I'm gonna do a little star up top. And this, you can either draw your star first, but if you can do it with the brush, that's probably best. And you can also not include ornaments. You can add lights. You could not add a star. You could not even do a tree. So it's really up to you and what you are thinking for your holiday cards. Okay. So here you go. We've got this. And that's going to be our card for that. Now, what I did with this card, which was kind of one of our basis cards, is as you can see kind of around the edge, you see how that's dark and then it gets kind of bright? That's going to be our gold outline. And I think a gold outline does a really great job because it has that nice shimmer, makes it feel a little classy. So we're going to add that, and we're going to add that to this perhaps, and we're going to add that to this. So we're going to start with this one, because we can't take it all the way up to the edge. So you see here, this right here is kind of impeding where we would put that border. So we're gonna actually put the border right here. So, I'll take a little sip of my hot chocolate. So just for those of you joining, we are doing a kind of quick holiday cards. These are watercolor cards. Super easy to do for beginners. Beginners, it's really easy. I was gonna say beginners and masters at heart, but there's a lot of things you can do. Woo! So we're just doing this straight line here. This is a straight gold line. That's it. That's all we're doing. Straight gold line. I like to do this kind of little edge, you see, and it doesn't have to be perfectly straight. That's great, but it's also a homemade watercolor card, so don't get too uptight about it. You're just making cards for your friends and family. This side, I'm going to do the same thing where we just go straight down and then we go down along. Now, I love to describe so that you can keep going and doing your own thing, because you can see here now, we've got our two little edges and they're gold. And what's really nice about gold is you get that kind of shimmery section. For those of you joining, we are doing watercolor cards. We have 3 varieties that we're doing. We've been doing this for almost 40 minutes and we are almost totally done. We've got this little wreath. We're going to add a little gold edging. So I'm going to add that gold edging, make sure that's not too wet that I end up ruining it. Woo! Okay. Let's just add in a little gold edging. And some people with really steady hands are going to find this really easy. People, if you don't have steady hands, don't feel like you have to do gold edging. You know, don't feel like you have to do anything. You are in control of your own destiny, my friends. So we're just working on that edge. Okay, here we go. Gold edge. All right, so here we have now the gold edge the whole way around. That's looking just fine. And now, ooh, almost put it in there. I'm gonna wipe my brush off because really we're done with the brush. So there's a few different ways you get to go about it. I like to do lettering like this. Now normally I'd wait a few more minutes to work on this one. But what I do with my lettering, and guess I'll show you here. Ooh, hi. So I'll do my lettering and you can see that. I'm gonna close this up, get a little bit more of a boost so you can see what we're up to here. So with my lettering, you can use like a Sharpie marker like that, and there's a few different ways you can do it. I like to go, as you can see with this kind of section here, go for a little curved. So it's not wet, so I should be good. Just gonna happy holidays. What's great about happy holidays, if you get your Christmas cards out late, if you celebrate any one of the 14 holidays that happen in December, then you can get these out to people, all sorts of different faiths and celebrations. So one thing I'm doing here with this card, you see how that edge has a little bit darker stuff going on there. I like to give it that little extra as if I had a calligraphy pen, but I don't. And this is also something that I feel like every person who's been like a 13-year-old girl definitely understands when you get that good lettering and fun times. So I'm just adding in a little bit here so that my happy holidays little letter here looks very nice. Just give it a little bit more. For those of you just joining, we are doing holiday cards from home here at Sam Altoona. And these are watercolor cards. We just finished 3 designs in 30 minutes. And so if you want to do that, I encourage you to go back and watch. Materials for this would cost maybe $10–15, and you can make probably 30 cards that way, depending on how you use your resources. Okay, we're just finishing out this little Happy Holidays card. It's got berries, it's got spruce sprigs. Here we are, and that is our card. We've got a little bit of that gold shimmer. We've got nice, and again, this is kind of one of the most basic cards you can do because it's only really using kind of one directional, you'll see here, that's one directional lines on both sides and just circular berries and then a little bit of a gold edge. So we finished those. I'm gonna put that in my finished pile, and I'm gonna get to hand lettering. Is this one dry? Yes. So we've got this little wreath. Now you can really play. The wreath is in the middle, so you could do all sorts of things. Maybe up here you write like mom, and then you write, a little note in here that says Merry Christmas, or here that says Happy New Year, Happy Kwanzaa. You could have here all sorts of different things from like you or someone you know. But you can also use the back for any sort of love notes you want to write. For me, I'm just going to write another Happy Holidays in that same kind of font. And I'm going to put holidays down here. And I've written it out. And doesn't it seem like there's a little something missing right here? I'm going to add to you. You get to kind of play with it however you would like. And now I'm going to get started on making that edging quite nice. This is kind of that, if you had a calligraphy pen would do this if you know calligraphy. If you are just like me and you've got this little, kind of Sharpie pen, you can make it look a little fancier, although Sharpies are quite fancy, with this. So there we've got our happy, and now we're going to get our holidays. And I'm going to move my hand so you can see that just a little bit as we go forward here. We are finishing up our happy holiday cards These are all watercolors done at home. Woo. So here we go. And happy holidays to you. So there we go. And you could also just put something in here, like you could put from me to you. These are just, again, really basic. We've added in, you can't really see it because of the quality, but there's a lot of colors in there. A lot of light greens, dark greens, blue greens, yellow greens in there. This is just a really basic card that you can do at home with watercolor. And then this card, what I did with the similar one was I kind of made it this base of the tree. And just kind of tucked it in there. And I think I'm going to do the same thing here. And I'm just going to do really small not script, just something really simple, just happy holidays. There were some other ones that I did that used the tree motif again as well. And that's just, this is all one color, it's just back and forth, it's really simple. And we have something like this that has the happy holidays on it as well. So now we've made our 3 cards, and that's not where the fun stops. Because now you should write something. Write to your friends and family, write a happy card, put the real greeting in that section there. But now you have all of these kind of joyful cards. And this, I mean, these were 4 different types. I was explaining the whole time. It didn't take you more than really 30 minutes for us to get almost to the end. So something important to look for when you're making your cards. Could be speed, but you could want to spend more time with it, and that's okay too. But definitely feel free to use this however you see fit. When we are open again, January 4th, please come visit us. We are so excited to share with you our newest exhibitions. Until then, we'll see you online. We'll be here on Facebook. We'll be on our website, Instagram, and come check in with us there. We are very excited that we have such wonderful friends and neighbors in the area to really spend time with. So we hope you have a wonderful, wonderful holiday season. Enjoy your cards. And from all of us here at SAMA, happy holidays.